right, hello everyone, and welcome to today's discussion with Phipps Conservatory and Pittsburgh Vegan Society. I see some familiar faces, so welcome back to anyone who was with us in prior discussions or any prior classes or programs. It's nice to see some of you back. It's nice to see some new names as well, so welcome to anyone who's new to any of these classes. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Tess Monks. I'm the Botany Hall Kitchen Manager here at Phipps Conservatory. We focus on a slew of culinary skills and practices revolving around plant-based eating, whole food eating, and a lot more. So we'll go into that a little bit more later. And if anybody has any questions, just let me know. With me today is my colleague, Jess. She's also here from Phipps. So if you need anything, just let us know throughout the class. We have quite the lineup today, so we won't take up too much more time to get everyone started. And if the Pittsburgh Vegan Society team wants to take it away.
All righty. Welcome, everyone. I'm Chris. I go with he, him pronouns, and I'm one of the co-organizers of the Pittsburgh Vegan Society, along with my cohorts, Ellie and Sean. Our mission as an organization is twofold: to promote veganism for the animals and for the planet in the Pittsburgh area, as well as to provide community and support for vegans and vegan-interested people. And regardless of whether you are vegan or not, we are glad to have you today.
Thanks, Ellie. And thanks, Chris. Thanks, everyone, for making today possible. To the speakers whom we'll introduce soon, and to Tess, Jess, and everyone at Phipps for making today possible. I'm Sean. I'm one of the other co-organizers of PBS. I use they, them for pronouns. And we'd like to take a few moments now of reflection and silence for any sentient beings affected by any violence, any oppression, any hate, for folks especially quite directly affected by the pandemic as well. So if we could just take a few moments of silence. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Yes, thank you. So our first speaker is Matthew King, and Matthew A. King is the president of the Christian Animal Rights Association, which he co-founded with his wife, Nina. He has worked with the Christian Vegetarian Association. His upcoming book, tentatively titled I Will Abolish the Bow, Christianity, Personhood, and the End of Animal Exploitation, is scheduled to be published in the early summer of 2021 by Whip and Stock. He has served on numerous panels and productions discussing animal rights ethics. Matthew is a registered nurse licensed in the state of Pennsylvania. He grew up and currently resides in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Matthew and his wife are the proud parents of a 7-year-old Sheltie named Ripley and an 8-year-old husky named Zira. So thanks for coming, Matt, and take it away.
Thanks so much, Chris. And thank you to PBS and Phipps too for hosting this event. This is really great. But before I start, I wanted to just paint a picture for you for just 1 second that will sort of set the tone for the theme of my presentation. Imagine you're at a Halloween masquerade party with a bunch of strangers. Everyone has a costume. You casually walk through the room looking to befriend someone. Before you even start talking to anyone, you see someone with a red mask, then someone with a blue mask. Finally, you see someone with a green mask. You're partial to the color blue, so you decide to be kind to the person wearing the blue mask. But because you hate the colors of red and green, you mistreat those with the red and green masks. Although a simple analogy, this is what happens when we unjustly discriminate. Although we all have the same emotions, feelings, awareness, and basic desires, we often decide how to treat someone based on how they look on the outside. Most everyone listening right now knows and agrees that discrimination based on skin color, sex, or any other outside criteria is wrong. Importantly, over 2,500 studies demonstrate that animals are sentient, meaning they have feelings, emotions, and may even perceive the world exactly like we do. We all know this to some degree because of the beloved dogs and cats we have at home. They all have different personalities, feel pain, emotions, and desire to live free from harm. Just like we judged others at the Halloween party based on the color of their mask, we humans have done the same with regard to species. This is known as speciesism, a term coined by the British psychologist Richard Ryder. This discrimination is most obviously seen in every major animal charity. If the organization posts a video of the Chinese farming dogs, US citizens are outraged. That same charity will then post a video of a pig or cow farm in the United States. Those same individuals who stood so resolutely against dog exploitation will state, bacon, and I love steak. Yet they would never talk about a dog or cat like that. Dogs and cows both have feelings, emotions, and fun personalities. The only difference is the costume they wear. Social psychologist Melanie Joy famously stated, "We love dogs and eat cows not because dogs and cows are fundamentally different. Cows, like dogs, have feelings, preferences, and consciousness, but because our perception of them is different." Once we realize that animals are all the same on the inside, this begs the question, why don't we treat them all the same? Every major religion has this same principle of equal consideration. The Buddha stated, putting oneself in the place of another, one should not kill nor cause harm to another. Muhammad stated in the Hadith, as you would have people do to you, do to them. And what you dislike to be done to you, don't do to them. Jesus also had principles mentioned in the Bible, such as the Golden Rule, where he stated, treat others as you want them to treat you. This is what the law and the prophets are all about. As well as the royal law, love others as much as you love yourself. Peter Singer was the first philosopher to extensively discuss this principle of equal consideration towards animals in his 1975 book, Animal Liberation, where he advocated to refrain from harming animals with our food choices. He also criticized vivisection. Most of us already give kindness, mercy, and compassion to dogs, cats, hamsters, guinea pigs, and horses. Similarly, we think dolphins, whales, giraffes, and lions should be free from harm. When we get to farm animals like pigs, cows, and chickens, however, we hardly ever consider equal treatment. The principle of equal consideration is a good rule of thumb because it only really applies to where we are similar. So for instance, if we're talking about chickens, they don't need to vote or earn a wage. The major ways they are similar to humans is that they feel pain and emotions, and they want to live. Thus, they should be afforded those equal rights. Addressing speciesism would be the most pivotal action we can take to help animals and address their suffering. In addition, there's also benefits to human well-being when we address speciesism. Peter Singer, again in Animal Liberation, stated, animal liberation is human liberation too. Peter Singer also famously stated, racists violate the principle of equality by giving greater weight to the interests of members of their own race when there is a clash between their interests and the interests of those of another race. Sexists violate the principle of equality by favoring the interests of their own sex. Similarly, speciesists allow the interests of their own species to override the greater interests of members of other species. The pattern is identical in each case. And I have good reason to think that speciesism actually helps contribute to the ongoing problems of racism and sexism. These two human discriminations may continue to persist because they are undergirded by speciesism. I have some noteworthy data that may indicate this. A study was published in a 2018 volume of the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology by scientists at Oxford University. The researchers stated, in this study, we present positive correlations between speciesism and prejudicial attitudes such as racism, sexism, homophobia, along with ideological constructs associated with prejudice, such as social dominance orientation, system justification, and right-wing authoritarianism. So in other words, the study shows that the more likely someone expresses speciesism, the more likely they are to express racism, sexism, and homophobia. Could it be that speciesism is the root of all prejudice? It is usually the first version of prejudice that we learn as children. It all happens innocently when mom and dad tell you to be kind to the family dog, but to eat the chicken at dinner. Could it be that speciesism teaches us that love and compassion are not to be inclusive of all, but rather that anyone at all can be excluded as long as they look different? Several authors have commented on the link between animal exploitation and human tragedy. Leo Tolstoy famously stated, as long as there are slaughterhouses, there will always be battlefields. Pythagoras, long before Tolstoy, stated, as long as man continues to be the ruthless destroyer of lower living beings, he will never know health or peace. For as long as men massacre animals, they will kill each other. Indeed, he who sows the seeds of murder and pain cannot reap love and joy. Many famous ethicists and authors have stated that racism is learned. It's not inborn or naturally present in us at birth. This is generally true, as it's typically adults that express racist attitudes, not children. Kids will play with kids regardless of differences. The same is seen with animals. Speciesism is not innate or inborn in us. We're taught speciesism. Kids generally love the sight of all animals, and none of them like to know what happens to them when they are harmed. Animals know this, adults know this too. That's why they jump through hoops to avoid talking about where meat comes from. I once saw a child accidentally step on a worm and cry. I wasn't happy to see him cry, but I was comforted knowing that he felt compassion for the worm. Then I wondered, how long would his compassion toward other species last? The truth is, we're all the same on the inside. Once we realize that humans and animals are just wearing different costumes, we have a duty to reflect on how we treat them. The two most common approaches humanity has created for addressing animal suffering are called animal welfare and animal rights. But these methods are very different from one another. The first approach to discuss is animal welfare. And at several events, I'll often show footage of factory farming, and most people will look at it and be absolutely horrified, which is a good instinct, of course, but they'll often stop short and say, there's a better way to do this, or, there's a better way to farm animals. And I think when they say this, they're usually talking about this notion of pasture or free-ranged animals. They think that there is this glamorized and sort of idealized old McDonald's farm where animals are running free and then they just magically die and give their bodies over in gratitude. This is the idealized version of animal welfare, which is essentially happy exploitation. The animals live a good life, and then they have one bad day where they're shot in the head, cut into pieces, and then shipped off in plastic wrapped containers. Even though this version of farming would certainly be better than shoving animals in cages for their entire life, it would be virtually impossible to give every animal today proper pasture and free range. The demand for meat is what forces companies to shove animals into cages in order to keep up with the demand. And as of most recent statistics, worldwide, 70 billion animals are farmed for food every year, 9 billion plus alone in the US. And these numbers are just even hard to fathom. But the second approach, animal rights, I think is better. Animal rights has varying meanings, but depending on the individuals, essentially it means the end of grievous exploitation of animals. The most far-reaching version is known as animal rights abolition, which essentially means humanity can no longer use and exploit animals for any reason. The most well-known proponent of this view is law professor Gary Francione. And I've developed my own theories around the concept of abolition, which will be discussed in my upcoming book, which, as Chris mentioned, it's going to be published by Whip and Stock in early summer this year. But Francione works from a secular perspective, whereas I work from a Christian perspective. But animal rights essentially demands that we refrain from harming animals for trivial reasons. In ancient cultures, food scarcity was a very real problem. Examples exist all throughout history, but one in particular is found in Lamentations 4:9 through 10 of the Bible, which states, being killed with a sword is better than slowly starving to death. Life in the city is so bad that loving mothers have boiled and eaten their own children. And hardly anyone in first world countries has experienced that kind of life. Today, we can live perfectly fine and actually thrive on solely plants. So abolition really requires veganism to be morally coherent. Gary Francione links the two, stating, veganism is not a diet. Veganism, which results in a decreased demand for animal products, is much more than a matter of diet, lifestyle, or consumer choice. It is a personal commitment to nonviolence and the abolition of exploitation. And once vegan, it helps to think of animals as persons, not things or objects as the law designates them. The most important way to give animals equal rights under the law is advocating for personhood, in my opinion. Previously in the United States history, persons of color, as well as women, were denied personhood under the law, meaning certain protections under the law did not apply to them. One of the future possibilities to achieve equality for animals is giving them personhood. There are many perspectives on who exactly qualifies as a person. For instance, some primatologists argue that since humans are biologically apes, that all great apes like gorillas, chimpanzees, and other species should at least be considered persons. The most radical is Gary Francione's view that sentience should be the only qualification for personhood. I think it also helps to stay away from animal products by remembering who animals are. For instance, most humans say it when describing animals. We should really refer to them by name or say they, he, or she, since these designations remind us that animals have personalities and are thus are persons. And the best thing we can do for animals is to change our mindset of believing that animals are here for humanity and we can just do as we please with them. We have to remember that animals are important not because humans think so, but because animals believe that their own lives and their own well-beings matter. However, humanity currently views animals through a lens of how they benefit humans. But my own personal perspective on the issue too is, as Chris mentioned, I run and I co-founded the Christian Animal Rights Association. So I mostly specialize in what the Bible has to say about animals. But many of you listening probably know the Bible is filled with passages about animal exploitation. However, God actually did not allow meat until after he called humanity evil. Before this, God gave humans dominion over animals in Genesis 1:26 and 28. Dominion is commonly interpreted to mean that humans can just do whatever they want to animals. However, shortly after Genesis 1:26 and 28, Genesis 1:29 indicates God wanted humans to be vegan. So obviously that doesn't mean exploitation. Psalm 72 also talks about the word dominion, and its context references a righteous king who pities the weak and helps the needy. So the proper understanding of dominion is really just benevolently and compassionately caring for the well-being of those around you, animals included. Psalm 72 is also prophetic of Jesus. So what were Jesus's teachings? His main teachings were servanthood in Mark 9:35. He's said to be the servant of all. And then, as stated earlier, the golden rule, treat others the way you want to be treated, in Matthew 7:12 and Luke 6:31. And the royal law, love your neighbor as yourself, Matthew 22:39. Christian Animal Rights Association aims to show dominion by treating animals the way we want to be treated and serving them, placing their needs above our own. This reflects the peaceful world that will be ushered in when Jesus returns, as seen in Isaiah 11:6. In that day, the wolf and the lamb will live together. The leopard will lie down with the baby goat. The calf and the yearling will be safe with the lion, and a little child will lead them all. This vision, the dream that one day in paradise, we humans will live peaceably with all the animals, is my central hope for the future as an activist. Whatever your background, whether you identify with a specific religion or spiritual influence or not, I want to invite you to imagine a world where we all look past our costumes and see all living beings as individual persons deserving of peace, bodily autonomy, and freedom from pain. What does that look like to you? And what can you do right now to make that vision a reality?
Thank you so much, Matt. We appreciate your words and reflections and experiences. Put some links in the chat, and there's a question about the name of your book, and Jess had put the name of your book in the chat as well, at least the tentative title.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Yeah. So we'll have some time, hopefully, share some questions and reflections at the end, but wanted to also segue to our next speaker, Rissa Miller, and I will read Rissa's bio. And vegan of 26 years, Rissa is the senior editor of Vegetarian Journal magazine and organizer behind Baltimore Vegan Drinks. She has participated in almost every kind of activism you can imagine over the decades, from leafleting to bake sales to fostering homeless pets to grant writing. When she's not promoting veganism, Rissa is a working artist. Her many storytelling mediums include writing, photography, dance, food, and tasteography. She spends a lot of time in the kitchen. She's an obsessed vegan baker and loves huge salads picked fresh from the garden. She studied writing at New York University, Tisch School of the Arts, and photojournalism at Western Kentucky University. In her career, she has worked for 5 publications and is currently studying clinical botany. So thank you so much. We're really looking forward to your reflections and words. Oh, I think you are muted.
Thank you. I'll catch on to Zoom one day.
No, it's all good. We appreciate you connecting with us this way. Yeah, thank you. And I'm sorry if I mispronounced your first name at one point during the bio. My bad. Apologies if I did that.
It's all good. And thank you for having me. And Matt, thank you for going first. I really enjoyed your remarks. So today we're talking about consuming compassionately. And my first thought when I was reflecting on those words was, what is the value of $1? I mean, not everybody has paper money anymore. I know some people's dollar looks like this or like this, but basically $1. So what can you do with $1? In America, you might be able to buy gum or a coffee, maybe a can of green beans. If you're lucky, you can get 2 for 1. You might be able to go to a fast food place and get something off a value menu. But this same dollar, what does it really buy? What is your money really going towards? And can $1 buy a life? But then I started thinking more. Can you put a dollar value on a life? And a short search online would say that many people would say yes. You can actually, this is disturbing, brace yourselves. You can go online and buy a marriage-ready woman from other regions of the world for $25,000. Now, if we put a value on a human life, we are engaging in slavery or human trafficking. These are unethical, hideous, illegal practices. I mean, everyone listening to me right now would agree that you cannot buy a person for any amount of money. No, nobody wants to get behind that. However, as a species, we regularly put dollar values on other lives. A rescue cat from any humane society or shelter in the country is worth $50 to $150 as an adoption fee. You can buy a non-pedigreed horse for around $3,000 to $5,000. Now, if you got some serious cash and the property to keep it, you can buy an illegally bred tiger cub in the United States for about $10,000. So who are we? Who are we as humans that, as only one species occupying this planet, we get to decide the value, the dollar value of any other life, human or non-human? And again, I ask you to consider, what does your dollar buy? And what does every single one of these dollars in any form support? So everyone is familiar with the really strong evidence that how consumers spend their funds impact their communities directly in terms of jobs and local commerce. This is the rallying cry of Eat Local, of Small Business Saturday, of Shop Small. Every town's main street and farmers market is familiar with the idea of how you spend your money impacts your community. But what else do you need to know about how you're spending your money, even if you are super conscientiously shopping small and local and supporting your town merchants? Are you also supporting responsible, ethical use of resources? Are you responsible in how you are manifesting the treatment of life with your money? Are you supporting large-scale pollution? So I looked up the average cost of an acre of land in Pennsylvania. Now, I know Pennsylvania is a big state and land values vary a lot, but the average acre of land in Pennsylvania is worth $7,100. It's a good amount of money. And the average amount of land needed to feed an average person, the standard American diet, is just over 1 acre. So that's according to the USDA. Now, if that diet eliminated all animal products, basically became a vegan diet, the amount of land you now need to feed the same person goes down to half an acre. Actually, it's just under half an acre, according to the USDA. So the value of needing to feed that person is now half of $7,100 in Pennsylvania. So according to the USDA, there's going to be a lot of numbers. So everybody get ready for numbers. 220 million acres is sufficient to supply the entire US population, every human in America, with a vegan diet. And an additional 720 million acres is needed to provide animal source foods. That is your meat products, dairy products, eggs. And I don't know if those numbers include fish because I couldn't suss that out, but it is 3 times as much land needed to provide animal products. So if those 720 million acres were also used to grow plant foods to feed humans a vegan diet, the agricultural land in the United States could feed the entire American population. Imagine no one hungry. Every child has lunch. Every senior citizen has dinner. The entire population could eat, plus another 1 billion persons. That's a lot of resources that are being devoted to not just waste, but abject cruelty that we could feed everyone with. So what is the value of all those acres now? And what about the animals living and dying on those additional millions of acres? Dollars are going towards treating them cruelly and killing them. For the inhumane treatment of both human and non-human animals caught up in the system of slaughter and bloodshed, every time a dollar is spent towards a hamburger, that dollar is supporting that treatment. So this is a very personal story I'm about to share. As an activist, I have been inside a slaughterhouse. I'm going to invite you to stand with me in that place. And if you are a very sensitive person, mute me now for the next 15 seconds. When I walked in, my boots squished as I walked on fluid spilled on the floor from recently living beings. The hem of my pants, they were dragging around my heels because I hadn't gone to the tailor, soaked up blood, urine, and unrecognizable entrails. Permanent stains darkened those khaki hems. Inhale. Death has a particular smell. It's hard to describe, yet unforgettable. It's not rot or fermentation. That's a totally different aroma. Death is a coppery blood odor, as throats are slit, sometimes many per minute, mixed with gut-wrenching fear hormones as bodies shut down and skin, breath, the very essence of a being exhales one last time. Dying bodies emit hundreds of volatile chemical compounds. Each has its own aroma. Each species is a little different. And pasture-raised, grass-fed animals scream when they die. They feel pain and they go down just the same way as animals raised on feedlots or in factory farms. I assure you that death smells like death. And the scent of animals becoming meat is paid for $1 at a time by consumer demand. 1.25 million farmed animals, not including sea life, are slaughtered every day in the United States alone. On a global level, as Matt said, there are around 70 billion farmed animals reared for food and killed every year. Most people outside of the vegan community think of rabbits as pets, but 1 billion rabbits are killed for their fur alone each year, not including what goes down in labs. As Paul McCartney once said, if slaughterhouses had glass walls. So every one of those lives I just mentioned, those huge unfathomable numbers, every one of those lives was paid for by consumers who did not need to take those lives. They were taken for flavor, fashion, something else that is truly optional to human existence. They were options at best, but more likely treated like objects. And as we learned from Matt, all animals are individuals. They have full emotional and mental and spiritual lives. They have a soul, if you will. And there's no way to arrive at a place where you believe in a human soul and not look into the eyes of an animal and see their soul too. Who is to say the value of a soul? I'm not going to put a value on a soul. Are you? Can you put a dollar amount on your soul? Every dollar going into the animal industry supports one more troubling challenge for all life on Earth, and that is the environmental degradation of the system. Researchers from the University of California at Riverside have found that the total greenhouse gas emissions associated with a single hamburger is equal to driving an 18-wheeler for about 143 miles. So if you're in Pittsburgh, that's like going from Pittsburgh to Cleveland in an 18-wheeler. Similarly, a study out of the University of Chicago confirmed that if you get rid of your standard American diet, it is more effective to combat climate change than to switch to a hybrid car. Vegans in general are responsible for about 42% less greenhouse gas emissions than meat eater from their diets alone. And as Maya Angelou once said, do the best you can until you know better. And when you know better, do better. So I'm going to bring you back up now before I close. I'm going to lift you. We are doing better. Little by little, humans are doing better. We could still turn things around, and $1 at a time, one decision at a time, every individual can choose to do better, to be kinder, to be more invested in the long-term health of our planet, in the lives of our fellow Earthlings, and in each other. In the last 5 years, the level of online interest, according to Google Analytics, has increased for veganism searches 7 times over. From July 2013 to June 2018, vegan product launches have increased by 175%. At the rate the vegan market stats are growing, The vegan food market alone will be worth $24.3 billion in the next 6 years. And many vegan businesses are small businesses. They're those great small local companies. The Small Business Association says a small business is any company with less than 1,500 employees, but a micro business is any company with 10 or fewer employees. And these small businesses they're innovators of veganism. They are creating high-performing proteins, melty, gooey, plant-based cheeses, and delicious, fluffy, creamy vegan desserts. So you can go out and support these great small businesses, create new jobs in local economies, and it's going to be just delicious. I'd like to invite you to consider each dollar you have, whether it's folding old-fashioned money, or it's at the end of a plastic card, or you have Venmo or Apple Pay. All consuming is about supply and demand. You can be a hero and create a demand for more ethical products in this world. Every one of those dollars counts towards saving a life. It counts towards curbing the cruel smell of death that is encroaching on our entire planet. Each dollar you spend on plant-sourced food, clothing, household cleaners, or other goods is a dollar that makes you a hero for the earth. So today I'm really quickly proud to be speaking on behalf of animal advocates of South Central PA. Our focus is spreading awareness about the plight of animals, and we believe real change comes from learning and growing one step at a time. When we know better, we make more conscious and compassionate choices as consumers and individuals. And Animal Advocates has tons of online resources, and our members are always available to support anyone on their vegan journey. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so
Krista,
much for your.
thank
Oh, go on.
you.
Sorry.
Thanks so much. That was fabulous, and it was powerful and beautifully said. So thank you so much for that. And I want to introduce our next speaker, Dylan Nakey, and he has been on the board of Vegan Pittsburgh since late 2018. He joined Vegan Pittsburgh to help promote local vegan-friendly businesses, which usually means eating great food and taking pictures to share on social media. He's been vegan for 7 years, so he's happy to discuss what he's learned and how Vegan Pittsburgh helps to connect the community with local vegan-friendly businesses. So I'm going to pass it off now to Dylan.
Thanks, Ellie. Yep, I'm Dylan Iggy. I'm on the board of Vegan Pittsburgh. Can everybody see me? Okay, it still shows Ellie on my screen, so I just want to make sure. Thanks to the last two speakers. It was really thought-provoking, and I know, like, from my own personal journey when I was going vegan, watching presentations like that were really helpful in making my decision. So Vegan Pittsburgh, we are a 501c3 not-for-profit. There are 6 of us. We're all volunteers. We don't get paid or anything. And the mission of our organization is to increase visibility and accessibility of vegan dining options in the Pittsburgh region. And the way that we do that is we reach out to businesses, or some businesses even come to us, and we make sure that they have at least 2 clearly labeled vegan options on their menu. And we ask them to commit to having at least 2 clearly labeled vegan options moving forward. And as long as they do that, we will basically promote them for free to our social media followers. We have about 7,500 followers on Facebook and about 11,000 on Instagram. And we currently work with about 150 businesses. And so we're constantly sharing the product or the promotions that they put up on, Instagram, Facebook with our followers. We also do weekly features on one of our businesses where we go ourselves, at least we did before the pandemic. We go ourselves and we get food and we take pictures of it to make it look as appetizing as possible, and then give a little blurb about the business and kind of link you to it. So we're just this great resource for connecting people who might not know about all the vegan options in Pittsburgh with the options that are out there. And at the same time, we're also bringing new traffic to that business, hopefully. And we've had some great feedback from some of these partner businesses that, you know, they saw that whether it be their social media views went way up after we featured them, or if we did a feature on them, they maybe saw a lot more business coming in after that. And we just help people learn about them. So it's a great resource for that. We also, on social media, we have a weekly Did You Know feature, where it's usually like a quick blurb that goes over maybe just something really informative about being vegan, whether it be something like a nutrition article that could help you make a decision or make you learn something. Maybe it's something about like, did you know this isn't vegan? And it might be something you had no clue about, or it could even be something like featuring a local author who's just coming out with a book. That was actually our most recent Did You Know? So those are the big resources that we put out specifically in, I guess kind of in the nature of this event. I will say that Vegan Pittsburgh, we don't have a stance on why you should be vegan. We just want you to be vegan. But from like a personal level, I can say I'm vegan because of the animals. And I think that it's really easy to stay vegan if that's the reason that you're vegan. And it's more about just, you know, what do I do to, you know, what do I do to get this thing that's vegan that I used to get that wasn't vegan, whether it be like a cleaning product, food, whatever it is. So a few tips that I can give from Vegan Pittsburgh. Our biggest one obviously is about eating out or ordering food. And I think a lot of people are a little nervous about asking, you know, when you go to a place, is this option vegan? What do you have that's vegan? Could you substitute this in there for something that is vegan? And that's a big part of why we exist, is to tell you, you know, you can go with confidence to the following locations and know that they have vegan options for you, and that it should be easy for you to find vegan options there, and that they know what vegan is. But you know, when you're out and about and you might not have a resource like that, I would say don't be afraid to ask about that. These places, you know, these food places, they want happy customers because that means repeat customers. It means you're telling other people that they have great options. So, you know, don't be shy about asking about that. I know that could be hard, but they want to make you happy. When it comes to shopping in a food store because you're making your own food or you're buying something that you're going to make like a frozen thing or whatever, a few tips that I've found over the years that have been really helpful is, number one, look at the nutrition facts on the package. If it contains any cholesterol, then it's definitely not vegan. So that's like the easiest way to weed something out. Number two is then you could go down to the allergens. Eggs have to be listed as an allergen. Dairy has to be listed as an allergen. I think honey gets sometimes listed too. That one's a little bit confusing, but if you see any of those things in the allergy listing, then it's definitely not vegan. Besides that, then I would say you're going to have to probably then read the ingredients, and some of them are obvious, some of them not so much. That's been, I think, one of the fun things for a lot of us on our vegan journeys is learning, like, what does L-cysteine, that last ingredient in bread, mean? Or what does, you know, like confectioner's glaze, the last ingredient in candy, mean? And I don't think anybody wants to eat those things, but vegans definitely don't want to eat those things. So you should look that up. It's a little bit fun. Trying to think. So a few other things about us. We are on social media. It's a big part of how we work is Instagram and Facebook. We're constantly sharing things, whether it be links to those articles I mentioned with our Did You Know, or whether we're reposting pictures from a lot of our food businesses. That's been really helpful, I think, for a lot of those businesses during the last year or so, as they're really struggling, you know, to bring traffic within. So we're just trying to help them by promoting them that way. So if it's okay, I'm going to quickly just share what our website looks like to help people navigate a little bit, because it's a great resource. So yeah, let me do a share screen. Okay. Can everybody see that? Awesome. All right, so this is just our main website. It's broken down by parts of Pittsburgh, whether it be neighborhoods or regions like the suburbs. You just click on it, it opens up, it gives you a little description about what type of food that they serve, a little bit about the place, links you to their website, their phone number if they have a number to call, their location. Most places here have a physical location for you to dine at or pick up food, and we link you to the website. If it has that little Vegan Pittsburgh logo next to it, that green one, that means that they're like a fully cooperative partner who is doing everything they can. You might notice that some places don't have that. That might just be whether they didn't really respond to us or for whatever other reason. But the places with the green icon are like the premium. They're definitely doing what they can to be a vegan-friendly establishment. So you can go through, and that's everything we have there. Another thing too, here is our Instagram. This is what it looks like. We are constantly sharing stuff that our businesses put, but we're also putting our own things here too. So like this is one of our Did You Know posts. This is a local author. So really great stuff. We're constantly adding new things to our social media. And then the final thing I'll slip in there is we have an Etsy shop where we have a few like Pittsburgh related vegan things. They're all created by a former board member. She just no longer lives in the area, but they're vegan friendly Pittsburgh related items. And that supports keeping our website up and helps us go to events like the local Veg Fests in the city when they're running again. And yeah, I'll be around for questions at the end.
Great. Thanks so much, Dylan, to all at Vegan Pittsburgh as well. Really appreciate all their great work and advocacy and awareness. Thank you. And so next, I'd love to introduce Nina Ragland. Nina, thank you so much for being with us. And you'll have an audio presentation in a few moments, and I wanted to introduce you and for you to share any further words beyond the audio presentation if you wish as well. So Nina Ragland is a social worker who lives in another part of Pennsylvania in Philadelphia and has been living a vegan lifestyle for almost 4 years. Since 2012, Nina has been involved in different organizations such as the Vegetarian Society in college to currently the Peace Advocacy Network, or PAN. Activism efforts have included bake sales, being a mentor to individuals looking to begin their vegan journeys, and writing letters to local politicians requesting improved conditions for animals in factory farms. Nina is always in the kitchen cooking delicious vegan meals. She has been to almost every vegan restaurant in the city of Philadelphia and is always accompanied by her non-vegan but supportive friends and family. Nina is always looking to connect with open-minded individuals to discuss animal welfare and the future of veganism. Thank you so much, Nina. And do we have Nina's audio presentation ready?
Sure. Yeah, I can share that now.
Thanks, Ellie.
You're welcome. Okay. Can you all see okay? Great.
Hello, everyone. My name is Nina Ragland. I hope you all are doing well. I hope you're safe. And I'll just get right into it. I'll just give a brief background of myself first. My vegetarian veganism journey started in 2011. I was vegetarian. It was really just an overnight decision. I looked down at my plate one day and I questioned where that meat came from. What's really in it? So I kind of did it backwards. I stopped eating meat and then I did research. And when I did research, oh man, I was horrified. Horrified is an understatement, but I was really horrified of the things that I saw, the things I read, as far as factory farms or other farms that produce or that where animals are used for their fur and all that. So I was really horrified. And at the time, I used the term vegetarian, but I was still eating seafood. So, my ignorance back then, during that lifestyle transition, I had to learn. So 3 months later, I became vegetarian, really. And it was a little challenging because I was on my own for a little bit. Nobody around me, friends, family, none of them were vegetarian. So it was a little difficult to navigate at first. There wasn't a lot of vegan and vegetarian restaurants around. There wasn't a lot of substitutes around, any good ones anyway. So it was a little difficult at first. And I wasn't a chef. I didn't cook, but I started to cook for myself. And, I kind of got the hang of it eventually. And then, what kept me from becoming vegan was I loved cheese. I loved ice cream. I loved all that, cookies and stuff. And I said, oh, I need that. I need it. But, eventually, and I thought to myself, I said, they don't need, or dairy isn't really harming the animals. So I thought, but I was 100% wrong. Getting, or the production of dairy is just as horrifying and harmful to the animals as the meat. So in 2017, I finally became vegan and never looked back. So I'm just going to briefly talk about the importance of veganism for the rights and treatment of animals. Animals are sentient beings. they cry when they're in pain, you know, physical or emotional. They get stressed. They cry when their babies are taken from them, you know, and they also feel joy and happiness when they feel safe and when they feel genuine love. You know, they don't judge. They don't want to be forced to do anything that they don't want to do. You know, and that's the idea of humane slaughter makes no sense to me, because when something is killed against their will, that, you know, what's humane about that? And, you know, it's been scientifically proven that we don't need animals to consume. We don't need to consume animals to survive and thrive in our lives. You know, the amount of crops grown to feed livestock could essentially combat world hunger, really, if they were, you know, grown for direct human consumption. And I want to read a quick sentence from a book called Veganism of Color in Human and Non-Human Liberation, edited by Julia Feliz-Bruick. I hope I said her name right. Just to back up what I had just said, it says globally there is enough cropland to feed 9 billion in 2050 if the 40% of all crops produced today for feeding animals were used directly for human consumption. So there's something for you to think about. And lastly, I just want to talk about a brief call to action about veganism. You know, we live in a strange times right now, but this is it's so important still to continue this fight, because even though it feels like the world's kind of stopped, the suffering of animals continues. So, you know, keep yourself abreast of different laws that are affecting the welfare of animals. Watch different documentaries. I was a huge documentary watcher, and it helped me. It kept me educated. Do challenges. You know, challenge yourself to maybe not eat meat for a week or give up cheese for, you know, a couple months. There's so many different volunteer opportunities, even, you know, virtually, you know, get together with, or research some volunteer opportunities so you can get together with, you know, new people that you've never met. You know, so you're never alone in this journey, which is awesome now because it's become so more mainstream, which is, you know, amazing. So just be kind to yourself and the animals, and good luck on all of your journeys. And I hope you stay safe and stay well. Thank you for your time.
And thank you so much, Nina, for your reflections and resources and perspectives, and the call to action too. We really appreciate it. If you wanted to share in real time too, that would be awesome.
Sure, no problem. Well, I got to get back to work soon, but I was hoping to stay a little longer and answer some questions if you guys had any for me. But that's kind of it in a nutshell. I don't want to take up any more time, but but nice to see everybody. This is a wonderful program. Thanks for the invite, Sean. So
sure.
Yeah. I hope you guys have a great rest of your meeting, and I gotta go.
You too. Take care. Bye, Nina.
Thank you.
Great. So we wish to thank all the speakers for today, and again, everyone who made today possible. We realize we're coming up to the 1 o'clock hour, but if there's any kind of questions or further reflections, I apologize. I probably have to go just in a few minutes myself, but.
And one little trick I shared at the last discussion that people seem to like in the chat box, there's our 3 little dots there. If you click on that, you can save the chat so you guys can refer back to these resources. I will follow up with everyone in the class with the resources in the chat and a nice little doc for you. So no worries if you don't save the chat, but we can get that your way. And thank you from Phipps as well for joining us today, and all of our speakers. We couldn't have done it without you.
Yeah, thanks everyone. Really appreciate that. Wanted to say that I'm filled with a lot of thoughts and emotions, sort of all the different layers of veganism and people's vegan paths and journeys, including regarding animal rights, and just sort of really taking in, unfortunately, how oppression and hate and so many isms can be learned, and the hope that, or are learned, I should say, unfortunately, and the hope that they can be unlearned, you know, over time. And I think that, you know, I think unfortunately people from a young age can engage in bias and oppression, and unfortunately that can get worse over time. I've hoped that things can get better. I don't mean to be cliched about it, but with intentional action. And I really appreciate everyone's words today, including Nina's call to action. Put something in the chat regarding some volunteering opportunities coming up specifically through PBS. But if folks wanted to share anything else in the chat too, that would be great as well. I can also briefly share. Oh, I'm sorry, Tess and Jess, were there any other questions or announcements that you were seeing in the chat? I don't want to.
No, not at all. I'll go ahead and put our link for any future culinary classes in our chat. We do have classes that are specific for vegan diets and some other stuff sprinkled in there as well. So you'll have to check that out. I'll put that in the chat, but that's about it from Phipps. Thanks, Sean.
Okay, cool. Just thank you. Just saw a question in the chat, sorry, that I may have missed it. Is a good transition to a vegan diet being vegetarian? So that can, and other folks can definitely share their perspectives. It can really vary. As an organization, Pittsburgh Vegan Society, we consistently promote veganism, but people have different journeys and paths. For some people, they may kind of start out as omnivorous and then become vegetarian and then, kind of get to veganism. There's sort of many different paths and journeys along the way. Any other reflections on that question? Thank you for the great questions, everyone. There's another question regarding feeding canine animals. I'm not an expert on this, but I do know that there are some resources, especially for dogs, but for some other animals as well, their companion animals, plant-based options, plant-based food options. And again, I'm not an expert, but I can try to share some.
I can speak to that.
Thanks, Ellie. Go for it.
Sure. So yes, there are actually a lot of vegan options for dogs. You can get them at regular pet food stores even, they have that. And there's also some popular brands online. And so like VDog, there's actually, I forget that there's also another new one that's been very popular. It's called like Wild something. But yeah, definitely check that out. It has all the great nutrition and everything that dogs need. And if I'm recalling correctly, the longest living dog was actually plant-based. So yeah.
That's awesome. And that makes a lot of great sense. Thanks, Ellie.
Yes, we are running short on time, so we apologize if there were further questions or desired discussions. We apologize for running short. But we'd love to talk more. If you have any more questions, feel free to email us. And we can talk at length about a lot of deeper issues, including, what do you do with feeding companion animals, because there is controversy there. But we just want to read a couple of our announcements. So our next meeting is going to be a book discussion. And the book, actually, which Nina mentioned, it's called Veganism of Color, Decentering Whiteness in Human and Non-Human Liberation. And that is going to be Saturday, March 21st at 3 p.m. to 4:30. It's going to be an hour and a half. And it'll be a wonderful book on racial justice and veganism. If you're not able to read it in time, that's okay. We'd love for you to come join the discussion. I think it'll be really awesome. And then in our last, but hopefully not the ultimate last, but our last meeting with Phipps as part of this series is April 22nd. And that meeting is called Every Day is Earth Day and for Everyone. So it's going to be about veganism and environmentalism and, being good stewards of the planet and how those can interrelate. So we hope you can meet with us then. Again, it's Thursday, April 22nd from 12 to 1 p.m. It's an hour long. And then Thursday, April 24th, this is next month here, we have a fundraiser with Pittsburgh Squealers. It's a pig animal sanctuary or a pig rescue here in Pittsburgh. And we're going to do just a little fun event online, just a little a fundraiser to help them out. They're a great rescue. Again, they're called Pittsburgh Squealers. It's a nice pun. So feel free to check them out. All of our events are on Facebook and Meetup, so feel free to check us out there, as well as our website, pavegan.org. And we have one more thing to mention, and Ellie, take it away.
Thanks, Chris. yeah, I just want to say thank you all for attending. And if you're not vegan, we invite you to go vegan. There are a lot of resources available, and we'd love to help. Please feel free to copy down the chat as well with the information. And you can check out our website, pavegan.org. We also have an Instagram. So hope you all have a wonderful day and take care.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, all of our
Thanks,
speakers.
everyone.